Greetings. My name is Isaac Johnson, and I am working on this Bolt.new Hackathon. I've been working on it actually for about a week and a half. This is kind of the conclusion of it. I'm excited to show off what I've made, clearly using Bolt as the starting point. See kind of where I started here, where I had a few different chats from the microservice that would later ingest the logs onto the app itself, but where I imported from Figma to build this out. So a lot of this got to be created and deployed and built here in Bolt as my starting point. The funny thing is, I started my project the day that there was a big Google outage, so there was a lot of challenges in getting going, which was just a timing thing. But the preview will come up soon, and I'll bring that back. But let's show the app as it is today. So here we have a front door app. You can see it right here. We can log in with a login and password. And here we can see a variety of logs that have been ingested. We can sort by all the columns. We can even search for one. So we can say entry from curl, does live searching. We can organize as icons, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I don't know, I was thinking maybe it could be in a card flow. See details, we have different projects, though I haven't implemented more than one project. We can do it by month. Maybe I want to break it down by month and year. You can see how I've been working on this over a bit of time. We also have a light and dark mode. Future plans will be able to export the data, do notifications, have different users, do a little bit more when it comes to dashboards, and of course with the settings I can log out and come back to here. How does this work? Oh, and I didn't show you, sorry. Back to here. Here's the logs, right? You want to see how to actually get stuff into the logs. Let's bring up a command prompt here, and let's do a post of, we'll say this is a live demo. We can see it was on the ingest backend. It's a different domain here. And if I refresh this is a live demo coming in right here today on the 19th. So you can see that it works. How do we do this? There's a blog post that really is going to take you through every single step of the way. I've used every AI tool, starting with Figma, where I did the icons, where I've kind of figured out my design. It was very much based on a task flow with some log changes. The Figma got imported into Bolt, but this is that day there was that error. So it took me a while to get this through, and it's not Bolt's fault or Figma's fault. We were just dealing with a big Google outage. But after a little bit, I got it imported into Bolt, and we started to build out the full logs and design. Once I kind of refined it till it was the format I wanted, it had some of the sorting I wanted, what I did was I pulled that down. You can see where I was testing it in Bolt. When I used it pass, time that wasn't auth, and we could kind of see, yes, I got light and dark mode. It was really getting the UI elements done in Bolt that was my big starting point. We can see I then brought this project down, and from there I created a GitHub repo, and then I started to use other coding tools. So the coding tools were to help me refine, like creating a Docker file that could host this, and then from there starting to test with a Docker file that could run this. Here I was running on localhost, proving again any password and name would work. And we had the basic elements, sorting. I then wanted to kind of expand on it, so I started to use things like GPT-4.1, Code Sonnet, create different users and passwords. I had a lot of issues with cores once I switched to using an API for the backend on the database. And I kind of worked through these flows, and you can see me creating a database and the structure. I actually used Claude Code when I was having some troubles I couldn't figure out. I tend to use Claude Code only when I have to, because This one is not free, I pay for it, so it kind of goes from a little bank to sort this out. I spent about $1 with Claude Code to work through some of my various issues. Once I got the app built out with a Docker Compose, I had a front end and a back end and a service. I started to move to Kubernetes to run it. So here's my API that was getting my logs. Because of course my front end code, which is JavaScript, can't talk to a database. I need a back end service to serve it up. Then I get my Helm templates going and pushed out there, got a GitHub action. I use both Docker Hub and Harbor CR, so let me show that for a second. So in my Harbor CR, you can see I have OCI repo. I also have my containers in here, like the log ingest, which can be fetched. Also on hub.docker.com. You can see I put both of these containers out there for others to use. So the DB log app, the front end, the back end, are all here for others to consume. And then lastly, let's look at the GitHub repos themselves. You can see here's the log ingest repo. We can see the Docker file and how that works. And if we look at the DB log app, you can kind of see a general system diagram of our ingress comes in here to a front-end service, to deployment, to a back-end, and to Postgres. If you want to see it actually running in Kubernetes, let me do one last show. We'll do clear, kubectl. Here's these running. If we do kubectl get ingress. And what's really neat here is I used IONOS as my DNS host, which did mean adding a new cluster issuer. So for the first time, I've popped off of the main three, which is Amazon, Azure, and GCP, to add IONOS for a cluster issuer, which is getting me these certs, which is how we get that DB logs me. That is actually hosted in IONOS DNS, which is a very cheap DNS. It was part of the hackathon, but for $1 I got .me, and I thought that was a pretty good deal. Yeah. So in summary, I think this is a great hackathon. It was fun to do the project, work inside of a couple of different tools here where we can have GitHub and Postgres. As you can see, we have various pods going on and Helm charts and an app with ingress. And thank you for watching my presentation.